Twitless, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Penguin, Pain, and Prejudice, the culmination of that miniseries by Greg Hurwitz and Szymon Kudranski. In this issue, things come to a head with a penguin's personal life with his new lover Cassandra, and also with the plot he has to take revenge on the children of Gotham with his horde of mechanical Hitchcock's the bird dispensers. These little metal things that just dispense birds. They attack kids, and Batman finally kind of intervenes to stop this plague of pests upon Gotham. So very interesting climax to that miniseries.
And Matsy, give us the meat of the topic today.
Yeah, so tonight we're talking about episode 7. It's the next to last episode of the Penguin season 1. It's titled Top Hat. A lot of it is the flashback with Oz's childhood, where we see how two of his siblings, two of his older brothers die, and his culpability in that situation. And so it's a pretty heavy backstory flashback, and we get some more with Sophia seeking revenge. We get Sal Maroney's demise. We get a little bit more with a setup on how the climax is gonna play out in all likelihood, and I think his mother is going to be the crux of the whole thing. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so watching the episode, I honestly felt like even though there were so many significant events that were occurring, it was the most flaccid of all of the episodes. And the reason why I say that is because pairing it with this comic book, you see how sadistic and how purely evil the Penguin has the capacity to be when told through the comics medium. But in the show, they try to have all of this dimensionality to that character. And I think they really miss the heart of all of his evil depth that he's capable of. And the Penguin here, a lot of the motivations and the actions that he was doing, they came off very meek, in my opinion. Him killing his brothers, it was almost an act of aloofness. Like he didn't hate them particularly. He just wasn't motivated to go and save them because he would rather sit there and watch the movie with his mother. He's a
So
very
weird.
diffident,
Yeah.
indifferent kind of penguin, and commits atrocities almost by his indifference. So
I actually, it my take might be slightly different, but also agrees with you in a way, which is kind of interesting because I think that the difference between the culmination of Pain and Prejudice and Top Hat both are interesting. So it's for our audience. Reading both of them together is interesting in comparing types of evil. And while I think the comic is more diabolical in a comic book sense, he's got a much bigger scheme. I'm going to take revenge by, attacking kids with birds, with robotic penguin dispensing birds and such. I think that the show version is more sickeningly evil in a psychological way because at least in Pain and Prejudice, the arc that we see for Penguin is that he was kind of tortured. He wasn't just bullied. He was tortured as a child. And so you can see this sort of like he's lashing out in Pain and Prejudice, and it's disproportionate perhaps to what he maybe should do. But his brothers are very mean to him. They beat him up. I think they kill his pets. Like it's just really awful stuff. And so when he kills them, you're like, wow, that's going too far. But like, man, they had some sort of revenge coming. In the show, his brothers like do like a minor tease, and instantly they're just nice to him. They're nice kids,
Yeah.
and he murders them for almost no reason. And in that moment, I realized that the problem I have with this version of the Penguin is this version of the Penguin in the show does not belong at Blackgate Prison. He belongs in Arkham with the rest of the freaks. If you're that messed up in the head with the mother thing and killing your own brothers for no reason and then not having no qualms of conscience about it, like that's Arkham Asylum behavior, in my opinion. And that's one of the things that kind of broke down the show for me because there really is a supposed to be a distinction between Batman's rogues gallery. They're all supposed to be kind of like a Dick Tracy thing. They're all supposed to be kind of wild characters, but some of them are supposed to be just criminal the criminal element, just people who are selfish and they're killers, but they're people who belong in prison. And then they're like the weird ones who are just really messed up in the head. And this episode really, to me, and I think the mother jumps in and really reinforces this. There's something really messed up or almost demonic about this kid.
Matt, what's your take?
Yeah, I was kind of focused on a different element of this penultimate episode with because I've been trying to figure out what they're going to do with Sophia, because they've kind of built her up as this character that just reacts to and judges the story world. She's kind of like a force of retribution for the sins of the city in a way, because they're not uh, either some episodes I'm completely convinced they're not even comfortable making her a villain. Uh,
Mhm.
at maybe because of I don't know what it could just be because she's a female. I don't know, but they're uncomfortable with taking that particular track, or maybe they just kind of want the penguin. I mean, it's called the penguin. They kind of want to explore his arc and let him kind of fill that role of being the main person that you grow to uh, you struggle to both admire and despise at the same time. And so she really is going to have some less dimensionality, even though uh, the actress is great and she goes through a lot of really interesting things. I mean, she's already kind of been watered down, I think, by this point. But I'm trying to figure out how she's going to judge the penguin, because I feel like that's kind of where we're going. And we all kind of knew the mother of Oz's mom is the main. See, I haven't seen the last episode, but I'm just guessing here. We know that she's the only one keeping him normal, or he says as much a couple episodes back. So we know she has to go in some way, and it clearly by the end of this episode, we're all expecting for some reason, Sophia's going to kill his mom. I think it was the end of episode 5 where we got that impression. Of course, that's not going to happen because they've shied away on multiple occasions for making Sophia look like a villain herself. So how are they going to do it? I guess they're going to break him by undoing the bond between mother and son. Maybe that's how they're going to break him, which is a really interesting kind of thing to do. But once again, it's just another. I don't know. Now the mob is kind of being elevated into another hero role. I don't know. So it's 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 kind of frustrating. Sometimes it's easier to build a puzzle, and it's really harder to solve it, particularly in TV writing. And I'm really curious. I mean, what did you guys think about how they were dealing with Sophia the mom?
Yeah, so I think okay, well, Sophia the mom, that's an interesting question because, well, first it the key of it is how she's what she represents for the penguin essentially, and I think one of the mistakes this show is making is it's trying very hard to humanize all of these characters, and the mom, what she represents for him is she grounds him, and he feels that's his zone of comfort, and that's where he's able to basically do anything, doesn't matter how evil it is. There's no outward consequence for him. There's no moral conundrum, as long as he has the security and the companionship of his mother. He's able to go out and kill. He's able to
Yeah.
be indifferent to the well-being of his brothers. He's able to run a criminal empire. Basically, all of
Oh,
this is based on the enabling of his mother's companionship. But what the mother asks of him are the most evil, sadistic kind of acts that he has to cross all kinds of boundaries of his own humanity to satisfy his mother's expectations in
mm,
the endless pursuit of maintaining that companionship and that security that she offers him. She's his drug in a
yep.
lot of ways, and he's thoroughly addicted. I think they do the same mistake, frankly, with Sophia, where Sophia has to confront the things that happened to her in her childhood in this episode. She engages with a young girl whose family she killed. She has to recall all of the experiences and the conversations she had with her father about the death of her mother. and puts herself in the role of her father. And it's nice that they did go through this arc of self-realization that she says, "I'm on this same cycle that I've been convincing
You like
myself,
that? Yeah.
yeah, deluding myself that I'm not a part of, but implicitly, I am." But for me, it still takes away from a lot of the motivation that these characters are supposedly having for their acts of villainy. So where do those components of evil actually play in here? I don't see them in these very vulnerable and overly sensitive characters, frankly. I see it in the comic book. I understand that that's a pure manifestation of evil, that yes, they killed his pets, but he went out and murdered his brothers as a response and had no qualms about it and did it in the most horrific ways. He killed one of them with a crowbar and repeatedly committed this act.
I think
And
they were begging for their lives, at least 2 of them.
yeah,
Yeah, it was a face-to-face showdown.
he
Yeah,
he had
oh,
some pure manifestation of evil within him in the comic, and even in this issue, he kills this woman who is enamored with him, and I
that was
feel the
wild.
villainy. I
Yeah.
feel the villainy.
She
Yeah.
touches his face. Do you think was it the touching the face that did it? Was it more of an accident in the moment?
No,
So I sorry,
I,
go ahead.
I see the comic as more of a tragic figure. That's my problem with the show. The show, he doesn't come off as tragic. He comes off as psychotic.
Mm,
I don't. What's interesting is that, and this might be an interesting conundrum for the show, is the show wants to make him relatable, but by trying to make him relatable, they actually
yeah.
they undid it with this
Yep.
episode. I
They
relate to
did.
him. I relate to him a lot less in the comic. I relate to him a little bit more because they give him a taste of happiness with Cassandra. Here's a woman who is willing to love him for who he is, blind, right? So she's just reacting to the presence and baubles, the niceness that he's giving to her, the politeness, the courteousness, the elegance that he can bring, and they give him a little taste of happiness. And this is interesting for a Batman villain. It's not unheard of, but it's not super common. There's lots of irredeemable Batman characters, but Penguin, they can sometimes give him an angle to, show him something that's better, and he's clearly enjoying that. But his desire for vengeance for things that he's been wronged by it overpowers. It overpowers his ability to have a happy ending, and that ties in with his origin, right? Because he's so driven by vengeance and the slights that are kind of done against him that when he's teased with this little bit of happiness, he destroys it himself. And so that gives the tragic side of it because she reaches out to touch him and he just kind of instinctually just kind of like stabs her in response. And he, I think, he almost preemptively thinks she's going to be horrified at me. That's an insult to me. I kill everyone who insults me, without realizing that right
Mhm.
afterwards that she actually didn't judge him. She loved him just the same afterwards. And so he has in fact murdered his only happiness. That's a wonderful little Shakespearean twist. And then the comic, I've had struggles with the comic. With the art, it's really not great art. There's moments where I don't understand what's going on. I've had to reread
It's
panels multiple
macabre.
times.
Yeah.
Not great comics in my opinion, but the story had a nice little, like I said, um, almost Grecian tragedy to it. And so that I think elevates it, and in the show, in trying to make, like I said, him more relatable, almost undid some of how relatable he was earlier, and that kind of makes things kind of odd.
Yeah.
Let's take a brief pause to hear from the awesome creators joining us today and find out what cool projects they're currently working on.
Hey guys, if you love sword and sandal historical fiction with a healthy dose of ancient Roman and Egyptian fantasy mixed in, then check out Kyrie. We've got 450 pages printed so far, a fourth book on the way. Order your books today at curiecomic.com.
Modern day, classic superhero storytelling. Get The Adventures of Omega Girl, issues 1 through 5, now on Indie Planet.
Thank you to our awesome creators, and now back to the video.
They both had these little moments. It's funny, we didn't plan this, but they both have these moments, this comic and this episode, or this issue of this episode where someone dies and he's struggling to figure out what the like how to line this death up with the story that he expects deaths, revenge deaths and how they're supposed to be, right? Like in this issue, he's like, "What are you saying?" He's assuming that insult, right? Like this is me uh, getting that revenge that I want, and I need to hear it from your lips, confirmation that that you're an awful person that I should have done revenge to. And then he hears that she found him handsome,
Mhm.
right? And and that and in Sal Maroni's death, it was an interest. I don't know why they added that. I don't know, just to make him interesting, I guess, or just for to killing off Sal Maroni was kind of dumb. So maybe they just decided to turn it to a character moment to make that scene interesting,
It
right?
came out
But
of
he's like,
nowhere. It
no,
came out of
you
yeah.
gotta, yeah, you can't have your heart attack yet. I really have to let you know that I defeated you. What do you
Yeah,
do?
this is a
You have to
character.
let me define this moment. I have to own this death.
He
You
needs
know?
his actions constantly validated for him, and
Yeah.
Yes.
that's where he's asking for that validation from Moroni, even after death.
Am I the only one who felt a little weirded out that there was like almost no foreshadowing for that? Like there wasn't a scene where they said, "Oh, you got to watch your meds, Sal. You're gonna
Yeah.
you." He just out of nowhere, he just has like a freaking heart attack.
Yeah,
Um,
the plotting in this show has always been really weak. The setups for these very emotional moments and scenes are very contrived, always.
Yeah.
came out of nowhere. He just has it. I remember I was watching with my wife and she's just kind of like, is he having a heart? There were just these moments where characters would just have things happen to them that just weren't um
Yeah, you
they weren't
shouldn't
set
know that
up.
he's
Yeah.
gonna die just because it's the next to last episode.
Right.
There should be some sorta plot reason, you know? Like, you do what that okay, they're gonna slowly go take him somewhere, and they're gonna take their time and kill him, so, obviously, the next thing in every scene is, the protagonist has to do something crazy to get the antagonist hot. And then he does something stupid, and then a minion helps, and then there's a mini riot between the clans, happens
Even if
every time. That was expected, but then he has a heart attack and then he's gone.
Yeah, even if they had him, like, chewing down a bottle of pills
Yeah,
occasionally.
exactly. They just you didn't have to do a
Well,
lot. Just have him just do the film language signifier. Oh, he has some sort of medical condition. He's taking some medication for it. Now you've planted the seed. There's a payoff for it later. It just comes out of nowhere for as far as I remember. Just it's just oh, he's clutching his heart. He's having a heart attack. Why? Like, it's
I
what
I didn't like the climax here where she goes, "Oh, I'm gonna subvert expectations with this new self-realization. I'm just gonna blow everything up." It's like, couldn't she have been any more original or anything else, just I
Yeah.
honestly thought she killed the mother. That's what I was kind of hoping, in a very twisted
No,
way,
she's
but at
gotta
least
save the mother just like she saved that little girl.
yeah,
Gi
exactly.
give her a theme though. If she is the gas man as opposed to the hangman, as how she killed everybody last time, have her gas them. Like they would at least like because these are
Yeah.
supposed to
Yeah.
be comic book villains. They're supposed to in the comic. He's got even though I don't Pain and Prejudice is not my favorite version of the Penguin, and I have a lot of issues with it. At least at
Mhm.
least his scheme of like I'm going to build these robots that dispense angry birds upon Gotham's children. At least it stays with an idea, a theme for that
Right.
character, and
It
so
it kinda won me over in its weirdness,
Yeah.
yeah, and so give
Mhm.
Sophia a theme. Let her have something. So like if she'd done another sort of gas attack or something similar, it's like, oh, this woman knows her gases. Like, I don't know, give
That
something to
Yeah.
it, but
It
well,
would've made her more proactive instead of merely reactive to the
That
situation.
would have that would have been the best arc actually for that character is for her to have embraced all of the things that happened to her and for her to become the hangman in the end and to, kill Penguin's mother by banging her from a noose. And, she wouldn't be any longer on this mob boss cycle. She would have become the villain that she was groomed to be in reality through all of the horrific events that occurred to
Mhm.
her. She would
Yeah,
have actually realized the natural course of, her life that she had been living.
No,
Yeah.
they wanted an explosive finale to this episode, so they needed
And
to have a bomb.
instead of just like merely shedding these like skid layers of
Mm.
where she keeps turning into butterflies, it seems like
Yeah.
every episode now. Like let her let her solidify this tragic fate,
Well,
and then maybe come to some sort of dark realization that she's actually gone too far.
Yes.
Now she's stuck and she's gonna have to accept it, and maybe like
or
that
have
would
her,
be amazing.
or you have her because she's the whole idea is she's offered with Dr. Rush, who we're not sure if who exactly he may be in Batman canon. Some theories
Scarecrow?
are that some theories he might be Scarecrow. Another top tier would be Hugo Strange, perhaps.
Oh, neat.
Strange is also one who kind of gets inside your head. And so because there didn't seem to be as much like exploration of fear, it was just I'm getting inside your psychology. So that would be
Yeah,
up
that's better.
Can't be strange without the bifocals. Sorry, it's got to be.
they can add that in. Like I said, they put that in the next movie, and suddenly it's him. But at least this Matt Reeves version of him. But I would say that the whole point of Sophia she's like, I want to leave. There's a third door essentially. There's this other option. I can just up and leave and just cast this all behind me. But she does that while also not leaving it all behind her by doing the bomb at the end. So it's like, pick a lane. If you're just
Right.
going to, and if they did the whole her trying to,
I thought she wasn't leaving. I thought she said, "I want him to feel as much pain as I have." That you're still in the cycle.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't learned anything, and I don't think the showrunners know enough to know that is not a redemptive moment.
Yeah.
You actually you just doubled down, and you don't even know it when you say that.
And if they wanted her to double down, what would have been a good thing is to do they could have borrowed from what they'd done in the past, which is because they did with Vic. Vic had the opportunity to leave and he chose to stay. And so what they could have done is give her essentially the same opportunity to look at two roads and then have her pick one, maybe tragically. Maybe she's in too deep. She has to go back. And that would be like a better way, I think, of at least illustrating the art. Other than, but again, these are
poetic.
yeah. But it's HBO, and HBO really likes to do the sucker punch, and the bomb was a sucker punch. That was the intention, and
Right.
that's
The Zack Snyder sucker punch. Is that the reference?
no, I just like the sucker, like the Game of Thrones ending where it's like, haha, you didn't think I was going to kill all these people and blow up something, but I did.
Oh, I thought you meant cheap disposable entertainment.
Oh, sorry, no, I meant literally like the sort of like narrative sucker punch where it's like it has an explosive ending that, in this case, with a literal explosion.
Yeah, the show is carried by its performances, and I don't really know if there's much else, to be honest.
You guys have convinced me. I was more hesitant. I was liking the tangled web that was being spun, but more and more. I mean, by episode 7 of 8, you have to start showing a higher order to this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm only impressed with the acting performances now.
Right.
So.
The comic, though, it impressed overall. It did wrap up quite nicely.
Well written.
Yeah, I didn't like the ending. All of this torment that he went through to just end up sitting in a cell and having to guffaw over another foiled scheme. Oh, harumph! I killed the potential love of my life. Curses.
Yeah,
I'll get them next time. Yeah, exactly. So
one thing I do want to add, though, is that I do think this is a weaker comic that does the POV perspective of the villain on the hero. We do get some clever things where Batman's face is out of frame, and so he's kind of larger than life, and we get to see sort of him being othered, which is interesting. I will say that if readers are interested in this type of perspective, a comic from around the same period, which I think does a way better job, is Luthor by Brian Azzarello. That one is chef's kiss for seeing the hero through the lens of the villain, and then understanding how that subjectivity plays out, and how because the way it's drawn, you actually get to see how monstrous Superman looks through Luthor's eyes. But towards the end of the comic, the text misspeaks on itself and kind of betrays its hand in a really good, poignant moment, and shows that Luthor's vision is actually wrong. Essentially, that his point of view is colored, and it's a really very interesting work. And I think that this book is trying to do something similar to that, and it just doesn't quite stick the landing as well. So, like I said, do
On a
recommend that one.
on a future episode of Well-Read Reviews,
Yeah.
Natsy, give us your final takes.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I had well, I think a lot of us we were struggling, Twitless and I in particular, we were struggling with this comic run for the first couple issues, and then when this love interest came into view, I think it really got interesting. And by the end, I'm glad I read all five. I think it was it's certainly worth it. I'd recommend engaging with it. I guess it's got some strengths and weaknesses. And the TV show, it's it has really been fun to kind of explore that that kind of maybe people are saying this is prestige programming. Uh, we'll see if anyone talks about this show in a year. Um, good acting. It's actually some really complex stuff happening, but it's struggling to stick the landing. Though it remains to be seen. We still have to review episode 8 of 8, so we'll see.
Twitless.
I think I've already said what I said about the comic, but it's okay, I guess. The show is I really just echo what's been said already, except for I would add, where's Batman? I just this show is just got a Batman shaped hole in it, and you can tell a story without Batman, but to this extent, it's getting to the point where it's trying so hard to avoid Batman that it's actually making it really awkward. There's like this show ends with a giant explosion. Batman should have been on site, should be on site immediately. You know what I mean? Like these are things where like Batman should be all over it, like white on rice, and the show just really doesn't want him anywhere near it. And why? That's where I'm at with the show.
It's going to be like the Gotham finale where it just pans up and it's the worst costume Batman you've ever seen.
No.
Thank you very much for checking out the video. Subscribe, like, and stay tuned for more.